Hello. Welcome to this 22nd episode of the Bridge of Awareness channel for the teachings of Zed. Firstly, I'd like to remind you that whilst I was asked to include some of my own experiences in this channel, the core of knowledge is not from me or from anyone else here, but given to us through a connection with a high dimension of awareness. At precisely this time, the beginning of a new age for humankind, when we are transitioning from the age of the intellect to the age of spiritual awakening. My privileged role is to present this universal knowledge as objectively as I can and free of personal judgment and expectation, which is sometimes hard to avoid. What I am able to present in these podcasts is not the total information received, but hopefully enough for most people to grasp the underlying pattern and to feel the wisdom and love within the words. This is what Zed told us at the beginning. He said, "Ours is not to seek popularity for ourselves, or to impress seekers with the depth of our understanding, but only to put the written words in their hands, and so give them a better knowledge of the world in which they live." Obviously, such a thing as podcasts weren't available back then when the teachings were first received, but the words were indeed written into a book. It bears the same name as this channel, the Bridge of Awareness. However, the intention now is that these podcasts will reach a wider audience and hopefully lay a foundation of understanding, as well as whetting the appetite of those who would like to know more. So let's move on now and consider what is called the entity level. This denotes the level of love and awareness an individual soul or higher self has gained through successive lifetimes of experience. In other words, whereabouts we are on our journey through the 7 dimensions of being. For bear in mind that whilst our earthly minds are of this lifetime only, our higher self, with its higher mind, is already existing and experiencing beyond those earthly confines. However, do not waste your time trying to guess your entity level or anyone else's, as we explained previously. It's a waste of time. In the last episode, we looked at having lifetimes of experience on other planets. What we proposed may appear quite radical to some, and I wonder how you reacted to the idea that our higher selves are able to experience throughout the universe, potentially leaving packages of karma to be collected on planets other than this one. This concept can be very challenging because we live in our earthly minds, and our image of ourselves is of being a physical human being, and only that. But we are so much more. Here's more from Zed on this subject. The law of karma is universal. It applies throughout the universe. The reason we gave you a simple diagram of carriages and horses is because those are to be found on the earth plane. The packages they carry will therefore be applicable to the Earth plane only. So a high-level entity arriving on planet Earth will incur the karma of a previous visit, and that is why you have no knowledge of other planets of experience. He said, experiences vary from planet to planet, and the higher your entity level, the broader the choice of planets of experience. The types of choice offered on this planet, the lessons to be learned, the pathways to be walked, are entirely different from other planets of experience, not only in time, but also in dimension. Therefore, the karma will be entirely different as well. He said, think for a moment of a high-level entity arriving on a planet that knew no hate, no anger, no greed, no desire, only love. Just imagine the choices open in such a widely different environment, where the being of experience only enjoyed the motivation of love, with no obstacles, with no hindrances between it and its higher self. Imagine experience with no fear of the future or regret of the past. If such a planet exists for high-level entities, then the karma created would be a lot different to what you experience here, would it not? And the form you would take would bear no resemblance to Homo sapiens. This would be a planet for highly evolved ones. So it's time for a shift in perspective, to open our earthly minds to the possibility of wider ways of being. And this isn't easy, especially if we are aligned from birth with a particular belief system that professes to know the only way to God or nirvana or whatever you believe in. I have a little personal story that I'd like to share as a kind of illustration of this. I have two grandsons. The one who asked, what is the point of being alive if you're just going to die? And his older brother, Ben. The boys grew up in different towns and went to different schools. One day, when they were quite small, I overheard a conversation where the younger one said, "My school is best," to which the other replied, "No, mine's the best." "No, my school is really, really the best." "Well, mine is better than yours," and so on. After a while, I couldn't help myself butting in. I asked, "Have you been to Ben's school?" "No." "Have you been to Christian's school?" "No." "Then how do you know which is best?" This is perhaps summed up in what I think is a Buddhist saying that goes, "Who can show his brother the right way, who knows none but his own?" Thinking outside the beliefs box is necessary, but definitely not encouraged by those in positions of authority. And it can be scary, perhaps making us feel unsafe or perhaps disloyal. But we're here in this lifetime to learn through direct experience, by finding our own inner pathway, not by passive acceptance of what has always been, however much that seems to have served us in the past. Humankind is in a new age that stretches us beyond the confines of the planet we are so carelessly exploiting. And we need to ask new questions. Ultimately, the answers we seek lie within us. The signposts we need appear when they're needed. Our higher self sees to that, so trust the process. The source of these teachings understands our human fears and frailties without judgment. We are told, do your minds doubt the aspects of which we speak? And if so, could that be the result of your conditioning? Such are the obstacles you have to overcome. But qualifying trust with a healthy skepticism, that is right, for not to be skeptical would infer blind faith, and that is never healthy or proper. One of the problems with the human body is that it is so secular, so sectarian in its outlook, that it can see no other role it could play. Firstly, it has a problem identifying the higher self within it. Then it has difficulty accepting that it is part of the universe. And thirdly, it has trouble seeing the importance of the higher self and not just the body that surrounds it. Is it any wonder, therefore, that it is confused? We have spoken of this before, of how society seeks to preserve the body at all costs and ignores the eternal force within it. Thank you for sharing these teachings with me. I leave you with these words from this channel of love and awareness. When the nights are clear, look up at the stars and realize that you are part of them as they are part of you. See you next time.